Welcome to another week of Reddit Set Go.
Today, Apex Counseling is doing a two-person edition of Reddit Set Go. So myself and Colby will be answering
Questions on Reddit about therapy.
Ask a Therapist Reddit and a couple of others that come up that are worth talking about and giving a little general mental health education on. Yeah. All right, so first question. If you've ever sat in therapy like, meh, I guess, this one's calling you out. Do I just need a new therapist? I started therapy a few weeks ago and it's fine, but I don't really click with my therapist. I thought I'd want to spill all the tea and feel like they really got me, like a smart, emotionally available best friend I could vent to. Instead, it feels kind of awkward and stiff. Am I being unrealistic, or do I just need a new therapist?
That's a great question. The therapeutic relationship is actually one of the most important factors for success in therapy. And so if you're really not feeling it with your therapist, find a new therapist where you feel like you connect with. But also, sometimes you have to give it time. You're meeting this new person that you're spilling your guts out to. It may feel weird the first couple weeks, and sometimes therapists and clients don't find their groove for a couple weeks. So I always tell clients, give it 2-3 weeks just to see. Mm-hmm. But also, if you have any serious concerns about what your therapist is doing, just let them know, because maybe they can change their approach and do something that fits you a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. The therapeutic fit is desperately important, and if it's not showing up relatively early, it can be a problem. In my head, I might make up, okay, do 2 to 5 sessions, see if that fit shows up. And if it doesn't, maybe this is just the wrong person. There's, in most areas, hundreds of therapists. You could just happen to be with somebody who's the wrong personality fit. And if that's the case, so be it. Most therapists are perfectly fine if that's the case, and are not going to feel badly if you say, hey, this is a bad personality fit, I'm going to find somebody else. Grab some.
Let's talk hypnosis myths. My friend did a hypnosis session and started sobbing over stuff from her childhood. She says she didn't even remember. I always thought hypnosis was a scam or just relaxation with music, but can it actually unlock memories we've buried?
Oh man, okay, so this is a good question, and that's literally the only form of hypnosis I've ever been trained in, which is the type of hypnosis to unlock traumatic memories for the purpose of processing. However, the answer is, kind of, maybe not exactly. Quite in fact, the reason it can be sometimes a problem to use hypnosis to pull out memories, and those are not viable for things like a court of law, is because there's an understanding that the memories are not necessarily purely historically accurate. So there's a good chance, if this was done skillfully, that what has happened is they have pulled out a memory that is somewhat close to the traumatic memory, and close enough for the purpose of trauma processing. But it could have some errors in it. It could have some factual inaccuracies. But if it was done right, there's a good chance that traumatic memory is unlocked. However, the way this question is phrased, the thing that makes me worry is okay, what are we going to do with that now? Because whenever I do hypnosis, on the rare occasion I need to do it to unlock something, we then move immediately to trauma processing for it. But the way that's framed, it's almost I'm not sure what the next step is supposed to be. But yes, on the whole, hypnosis can be legitimately used for that if done skillfully, as long as everybody's clear on that it might not be as factually accurate as you would wish for some purposes, but certainly accurate enough for trauma processing. Yes. Grief one for Colby. This one's about the grief that keeps going long after the casseroles stop showing up. It's been over a year since I lost my mom. Everyone else seems to have moved on. They avoid bringing her up like it'll break me. I still feel raw, and I cry out of nowhere over the smallest things. Is this normal grief, or should I be further along by now?
So there's no good timeline for grief. Everybody grieves in a different way. And for some people, that grief just looks longer. It's okay if you cry. It's okay if the memory of somebody, the mention of somebody brings tears or a feeling of sadness. Like, you're never going to get to a point where you're like, my mom died. Yay. It's always going to bring feelings of sadness. And it's really just figuring out how much is that impacting your life. Like, can you just not get through a work day without sobbing constantly at your desk? Okay. Well, it sounds like maybe some processing needs to happen. Working with a therapist would be really helpful for that. But if it's just coming up in times where it's like, oh, I was watching her favorite movie and I was really thinking about her. Yeah, that's pretty normal. And that's probably going to continually bring tears.
And would you say grief maybe lasts longer for the first primary attachment figure? Because this is somebody's mom. Everybody else at the funeral, it wasn't their mom, probably.
Absolutely. The closer you are to somebody, the longer that grief process is probably going to look. It's going to take longer to learn to move on with a life in which this person is no longer present.
Yeah.
This is the moment in the session where the air gets thick and someone says, wait, what? We've been monogamous for over a decade, and out of nowhere, my wife asked if I'd ever consider opening up the marriage. She said it's not because I'm not enough, but because she's curious and doesn't want to live life wondering. I'm stunned. I didn't even know she was thinking about this. Is this something people can come back from, or is this the beginning of the end?
Man, there's a lot in that. So let's start with this. If there is a graceful way in a monogamous relationship to bring up the idea of, hey, I'm thinking about an open relationship, I don't know what that way is. Like, I have no idea how you would bring that up in an elegant, clever way. So it sounds like, I mean, it may have been done as well as it possibly could have been. So kudos for that part at least. And it is often shocking to the other partner, especially if they've never been thinking about some sort of non-monogamy. So I think my first thing I would say is, like, as far as coming back from this or moving through it in some sort of healthy way, is don't panic. Thus far, it's just a conversation. Your partner has let you know a thing that is inside of them. You can let them know the things that are inside of you. Nobody's done nothing yet. And always, if I'm talking to a couple about the idea of open relationships, almost always, I'm encouraging them to take it very, very, very slow. And not just like, let's throw open the relationship and go date some folks, because that's a recipe for disaster. So this is a good opportunity to just have a lot of conversations and ask a lot of questions. I think the phrase missing out was in there. Okay, what is it you feel like you're missing out on? Like, if I was talking to this person who asked the question, I would be like, try and get into your wife's world a little bit and just understand what's inside of them and move from there. But this does not have to be a horrifying relationship breaker. Yeah. This can absolutely be something navigable. And to be perfectly honest, one of my own mentors in sex therapy made a good distinction. Even just being allowed to talk about things that are inside of us relieves a ton of the pressure. I mean, this might just be a thing we talk about and never act on. This might be a thing that, maybe there's a little bit of fantasizing about, but no acting on it. Maybe after a while we discuss and we're like, okay, let's experiment. There's a whole continuum that a couple can be on that doesn't necessarily mean let's throw open the relationship and go date other people.
Yeah, so a lot of exploring.
A lot of exploring and a lot of slow exploring and just asking questions, and to the extent possible, asking those questions as non-judgmentally as possible. This is the kind of phobia people joke about until it runs your whole life. I have this intense fear of driving over bridges. I'll reroute my entire GPS just to avoid them, even if it adds 45 minutes. I know it sounds dumb, but I can't breathe when I'm on one, and I white knuckle the steering wheel the whole time. Is this an actual phobia, or am I overthinking, or is it just me being dramatic? I had a family member with this.
Okay. Yeah, it's not being dramatic because you're feeling what you're feeling. So yes, it's a phobia. Whenever it comes to a phobia, because most people have some types of phobias, that's just kind of inherent to being human, and it's really deciding how much of an impact this has in your life. Now, if you live in like a city that is known for being like the city of bridges,
say Pittsburgh,
choose
an example out of thin air,
you're probably going to have to drive over some bridges. And not driving over bridges is really going to limit how far you can go. And so in that case, like, yeah, you're probably going to want to work on this phobia so that way you can navigate the city you live in. If you live in the middle of nowhere where there's like flat Kansas, no bridges, or like maybe it's a minor bridge over like a creek, maybe it's not that big of a deal and it's not something you have to focus on that much. But if it's significantly impacting your life, where you're changing a lot of stuff to avoid this, okay, yeah, therapy is going to be really helpful so that you can just live your basic life.
Yeah.
So here's a juicy one. I've been faking I can get through this.
All right.
I've been faking orgasms for most of my relationship. It started small, but now I feel like I've built this whole lie around our sex life. My partner thinks everything's great, and I have no idea how to tell them I haven't actually finished in months. Did I ruin everything, or is there a way to fix this without crushing them?
All right. So we got to be honest. This is not ideal. Any type of dishonesty is really not helpful for intimacy. And then once you have to turn around and admit the dishonesty, the longer the dishonesty has gone on, then that's a problem. So, and this can be about faking orgasms, or it can be about practically anything within a relationship. So if I had to bet my money, I would bet this person, if they got honest with their partner, yes, their feelings are going to be very, very, very hurt. I would easily bet that is going to happen. Is it recoverable if everything else in the relationship is healthy? I mean, probably, hopefully. I would have to ask more questions, so I'm hesitant to say yes, definitely. I would want to find out more about the relationship, but in a lot of cases, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity here. But yeah, you are going to have to really eat a lot of cost for the fact that you spend a lot of time lying. That's not ideal. And then once you navigate that part, then it becomes a conversation of teaching your partner how to pleasure you in the ways that your body receives pleasure, because clearly they're not guessing correctly. And you're also going to have to navigate that, like, they thought they were guessing correctly, they've now found out they're not, and also they're going to have to probably be told how to do it, which is also going to bring up other. So there's going to be a lot of big feelings here. These big feelings are navigable. I mean, do it on your own if you want, but I would probably recommend getting in front of a couples therapist for this, just to help navigate this a little more skillfully, because this could be a tough conversation. Oh, get this a lot. This is for everyone who feels too functional to ask for help. No big problems, but I'm not okay. I don't have any major trauma or crisis going on. My life looks fine on paper. Decent job, okay relationships, no real drama, but I feel disconnected, anxious, and like something's missing all the time. Would therapy even help someone like me, or is it just for people with actual problems?
So it's definitely an actual problem.
Right.
Not an imaginary fake problem. Yeah, some people's concerns are much more visible, where somebody can be more visibly anxious. And a lot of times we have those people in our life, so we see that and we go, but I'm not them. So am I bad enough? And I mean, if it's occupying that much space in your mind and your daily thoughts, where maybe it's hard to concentrate because you're constantly thinking about this, it's a big enough problem that should be dealt with.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things I tell people is a good litmus test for therapy is if they've been stuck on anything for more than about 8 to 12 weeks and they can't figure out a way out of it, just go. Because whenever that's happening, the emotional and thought patterns are not cut nearly so deep. You have lots of space to start turning the ship around. So like, yeah, there's no such thing as, oh, this person's problems can beat up my problems, therefore I don't deserve to go get help. Like, no, if there is a problem, it is a real problem. And for heaven's sake, go get help early, because everybody ends up happy whenever that's the case, because If you go get help earlier rather than later, your course of treatment lasts way less time. You feel better way faster and have to do way less work to get there. Your therapist looks great because they helped you in such a rapid amount of time. Like literally everyone wins in this case. You spent less money on therapy. So yes, anyone who is thinking, oh, well, it's not bad enough. Nah, if you're stuck, it's bad enough. Please go get help.
Yeah. This one is for everyone who's basically their partner's unpaid therapist and emotional Google. I feel like I'm carrying all the emotional weight in my relationship. I plan everything, I soothe their anxiety, I initiate every deep talk. I love them, but I'm exhausted. And I resent how they rely on me for literally everything. Is this fixable, or am I parenting my partner?
Well, two things can be true at once. This can be fixable, and you can be parenting your partner. Both of those things can absolutely be true. This comes up a lot, that one person feels like they're carrying the emotional load of the relationship. And in a lot of cases, when we do some exploring, we do discover that one person is very, very, asymmetrically balanced to carrying more of the emotional load, which is an unfortunate dynamic to be in. It generally is fixable as long as the partner is willing to learn how to share that load and actually implement some skills. If the partner's not willing to do that, then we're in a tougher set of decisions, because we're in the decision of, okay, do I want to continue to be in this relationship where I'm carrying the entirety of the emotional load, or do I want to figure out if it's time to exit this relationship? However, most partners, if they realize that that is the calculus that is being gone through, start to get pretty willing to pick up the slack. And I want to be graceful towards the partners who are not carrying the emotional load. This is a thing that is not well taught by parents, schools, or anywhere else where we generally would gain some information. So I generally want to have some grace towards the people who are not carrying the emotional load, because it's not like they were ever told or taught how to do that. And so usually the first time they realize that they are not carrying the emotional load is when they show up in my office and I inform them as such. And then it's kind of a great big shock to them that they're behind in some form or fashion. So I think my answer to this person would be, yeah, you could be parenting your partner, and they could be unaware of it, and it could be fixable. And once they learn, they may actually be shocked that they are not keeping up, and might become very, very willing if just somebody presents that information correctly, because that comes up a lot in couples therapy. Mm-hmm. Yes, the millennial rite of passage, wondering if your brain is broken or just too self-aware. I overthink everything. I replay conversations for days, analyze people's facial expressions like I'm in a crime drama. I'm starting to wonder, do I just need therapy, or is this what everyone does in their head and I'm just more annoying about it?
Everybody has anxiety. Anxiety, everybody experiences that. So everybody's going to worry about things to some extent. Now, if you're finding that you're overanalyzing things a lot, when really there's no reason to be, I don't know, maybe you work in like a really toxic work environment where you do need to overanalyze because nobody's direct, people are really passive aggressive. But if you have really healthy relationships and close friendships that you still feel like I'm overanalyzing all these interactions I had, like, did I do something, like, could they possibly think that I'm weird because I said that, or was that an awkward moment? Mm-hmm. Many people aren't replaying those situations over and over and over again. At least it's not taking up a ton of space in their mind. Now, most of us do replay social situations just because we want to reflect and be aware of how we are interacting socially with other people. But if you're finding that it's taking up a lot of space, probably something that should be addressed in therapy.
Yes. This sounds so familiar to me because I have several clients that easily could have written this question, other than the fact that this person sounds like they're not yet in therapy. There is, and it does seem to be presently with younger people, that there is a certain amount of I'm going to call it like perfectionism. There's this idea that they can be socially perfect, and so any minor social imperfection seems to get replayed over and over and over again. To the point where a lot of times I've had to help people start to learn to mistrust their felt sense that they've done something wrong, because they'll analyze things to the point where, oh, this person hesitated a quarter second longer than usual before answering. They clearly are angry at me or something. When in fact that could have meant anything, but the felt sense, because that just tiny variation happened, means that some horrifying thing happened. And it does always seem to relate back, at least in my client's experience, to some idea that we can be perfect in social situations. But yes, my assumption is that it would be better to address this through therapy, because these are some of the toughest things to seemingly get through. Like when I work with somebody who has social anxiety that sounds like that, it ends up being a lot of work to assist them. I don't know if it's similar for you, but this, I would definitely tell this person, no, yes, get with a therapist as rapidly as possible, because this might take some time to work through.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. God, I just saw her face. we gotta have a B reel, like a blooper reel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. God, that is way better. That was amazing. That was so much better.
Slay queen! There's gonna be a lot of this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's been a really rough couple of days. This helps a little.
I've been faking
How many times?
Upwards of, I don't know, like maybe close to 10 times.
Impressive.
I need to calm down, period.